My comments and presentation are going to focus on why it is that despite all of the efforts that have been taking place in Florida since 2005, have there really been very few reform measures actually adopted by the legislature or local policymakers. And a lot of what has transpired is as a result of the media and the types of reporting that they have done over the last 4 years regarding this very issue. They have played a major role in reversing many of our efforts. Today, I want to take an opportunity to have them reflect on some of those past reporting practices, if you will, and have them look to see how they can better communicate some of our efforts and better policy measures that are backed up by research and data to the public, who really does drive the policymakers. It's their constituency. We're talking about the front end, which is sentencing. We're talking about the sort of middle part of this whole justice system, which is corrections, what should be happening once a person does go to prison. We're talking about the types of people that should be in prison, for how long should they be in prison. We're talking about building community reentry networks that can help to connect with inmates while they're incarcerated. And then we're talking about what works in terms of community-based reentry efforts. So it really is, I think, a comprehensive review of the criminal justice system and how we can best increase public safety, decrease the cost, and really get people back, back into society so that they can be law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. For me, I think that there has always been a label placed on this type of work. Either you were hard on crime or you were soft on crime. And I think most politicians, in order to get elected, adopted a hard on crime philosophy and approach, and therefore there was no one who was open to being smart on crime. I would say that it's the way that we actually couch this argument. And I think that we haven't done a very good job of it. And again, I think the media has done often a disservice to the work that we're trying to do, because they feed into sort of the fear-mongering, the sort of sensationalism around one or two cases that really ends up broad-brushing an entire population, and thus really, including themselves as a negative force and a negative influence into public policy work that could be much more successful. Well, I do think that the media can play a very important role in identifying issues and investigating them, and really pressing those that have the ability to change the current policy, and in many cases failed policies. I feel that the media can be the first sort of responder to why aren't you listening? Why aren't you changing the way things happen? And really pressing forward some of these issues without being what they're traditionally done is sensationalizing much of it, and kind of feeding into actually what policymakers want to hear. They'll hear, oh, there was a bad story, someone who was a convicted felon is now a campaign manager for a candidate, and make it seem like that's a terrible thing, and not really reporting that, in fact, maybe that's a good thing. It is often very difficult for reporters to actually be able to get to the meat of certain things. So they traditionally just skim the surface, and in skimming the surface, they miss the real context of the issue. And I think this particular seminar is assisting them in really actually looking at every facet in a much more in-depth way. So I'm assuming that they're educating themselves now, and the fact that they're going to be thinking about the types of articles that they would like to write, given the information that has now been presented to them. I think this has been a unique opportunity. I don't think that they have ever spent 2 days really focusing on criminal justice issues. So hopefully, because all politicians and policymakers are somewhat afraid of the press, it will cause them to spend a little more time actually researching and digging deeper before they decide to make some knee-jerk policies, given what the press has been reporting. So I think it is kind of a chain of events, and the media leads that. I certainly think that local politicians, because all things are local, politics is all local, should actually be taking some responsibility for ensuring that forums are held, town hall meetings are held around these issues, and that we really be honest with the dialogue. I think there has not been a lot of honesty around these issues, and I think we have to hear some of the critics and then some of the supporters, and find ways to bridge those differences and to meet common ground, and then to advance these causes in a more, I think, grassroots way. My hope is that, in fact, we'll continue to work together. I mean, this has been an incredible experience to get to know personally some of the people that write about these issues around the state from the media. And so I'm hopeful that we can now, from the relationships that we have developed during the seminar, follow up with those relationships and be available as resources for them, knowing that it is a difficult job that they have and that they're on always tight deadlines. So we should be prepared to assist as opposed to critique.